Hello everyone, back tuning into today's first video. We're doing JMA Friday for today's first video, having a look at the coming month across the British Isles. This is going to take us into the middle of January. After that, tonight we're going to do the 22nd Christmas update. That'll be with you on the Christmas updates page. So we're going to run this through to the middle part of January. It was a very critical time of year, of course, Christmas into New Year. Do bear in mind these charts are highly experimental, so probably not to be relied upon, but it's a bit of fun and chance there, so might as well look at them. We'll see what they're showing in a moment. Have a look at JMA first and then the CFS V2. Before I get on with that, just say about the ads. There's links to articles on all the pages. Have a browse for widgets and click through the links if there's any articles that you're interested in. Help me to pay for our website. Thanks very much for doing that. The Christmas shop is still open, so if you've got any Christmas shop to at Amazon between now and Christmas, just click the green button that says Christmas shop. Takes you to our Christmas shop page, and then from there you go through the Amazon banners. Because you've gone from Gadsworthies to Amazon, we get a revenue fee on the things you're buying. A big thank you to everybody for doing that. It's been a huge success again this year. We're less than 10 days away from Christmas now, so don't leave it too much longer if you've got any Christmas shopping to do, but there is still time to get those Christmas presents to you from Amazon. Huge thank you to everybody for your support of the website again this season. So we'll start off with the 500 millibar height anomalies broken down into weekly periods, and then we'll have a look at the corresponding temperature and precipitation anomalies from the JMA. After that, have a look at CFS V2. So this is how we're looking for the coming week. This is taking us from the 16th through 23rd of December. Blue extrapolates to low pressure, and red and orange extrapolates to high pressure. So we see from model that we've got a big ridge over towards the east of the country, extending to the southeast of the UK for the coming week. Then we've got this deep trough with quite a strong jet stream in the Atlantic, doing something rather like that. We're placed under the ridge mostly, and that's fair enough. But as we get through later into next week, I think we're going to find this deep low pressure in the Atlantic gradually breaking down this ridge. So slowly through the course of next week, we should turn more unsettled. And there are some complications appearing in the model output in terms of this breakdown to unsettled conditions for around Wednesday, Thursday next week. I'll have more on it when we do the 22nd Christmas update, but there could be a little bit of potential, a little bit of wintry potential as we're breaking down this ridge through the middle part of next week. Come back to find out more about that tonight. But the overall idea, high pressure dominates to start off with, and then gradually being broken down through the course of next week. Then that takes us to week 2, which is 23rd of December through to the 30th. And we're more under the trough of the low pressure in the Atlantic. Then we've got these blue colours closer to us. The ridge is being pushed back in towards eastern parts of Europe. And we're bringing the jet stream back rather like that. Now, this could be, although it is Atlantic driven through the Christmas week and unsettled, it could be fairly cool as well, because the air is actually coming from the northern part of the Atlantic, doing something like that. We're not bringing up air from the tropics with that. It's coming from sort of Newfoundland, Greenland, that part of the northern Atlantic. So it could have some wintry potential over high ground in the north. Would be rain likely in the south, but a fairly cool, possibly even quite cold feel actually with that flow. Although bear in mind, it's not Arctic, it's not Siberian, it's just sort of polar maritime, that kind of air mass. And then we go through to weeks 3 and 4, which is the 30th of December through to the 13th of January. And it's still a case of let battle commence, really. We've still got this trough in the Atlantic, but the ridge over towards Scandinavia and through Central Europe is closer to us. So again, the idea is still that we're trying to bring in the Atlantic flow from the west, this ridge to the east, trying to bring in a continental flow from the east or southeast. And I think overall, remember this is a 2-week anomaly, so it could be transitional, but I think overall this ridge is probably winning the battle. So if anything, it's probably turning drier and a bit colder there, I would have thought, as we're heading in to the early part of January. Let's have a look at the mid-latitude view then and see what's happening in terms of temperature and precipitation anomalies for the coming month from the JMA. The British Isles is just here in the top right-hand corner of the chart as you're looking at it. A reminder of the 500 millibar height anomaly for the coming week. We have the ridge over and to the east of us, trough in the Atlantic, and basically this trough is breaking down the ridge very gradually through the course of next week. So that means that precipitation anomalies for the coming week, remember this is 16th, 23rd of December, generally dry on average for England and Wales, but a bit wetter than average for Scotland and Northern Ireland. And you can expect those wetter conditions to be gradually extending down across the country through the middle part and latter part of next week. As I say, there might be, during this transition, a little bit of wintry potential. I will have more on that this evening. Temperature anomalies. I showed a bit of a north-south spread. Interestingly, the north is coming out quite mild, around a degree above average, whereas the south probably can't make it out that well, but the south of the country for the coming week, actually a little bit colder than average. Week 2, which is the Christmas week, of course, going from the 23rd through the 30th of December, places us under that trough. So it's a much more unsettled week with the flow coming in from the northern Atlantic, rather like that. You expect this to be wetter, and that's what the model shows. Above average precipitation for the final week of December could be quite unsettled. The temperature anomaly is interesting because actually it suggests average to a little bit milder than average through that final week of December. But because the flow is coming from the northern part of the Atlantic, I think there could be some colder potential in there. It's not Arctic, it's not Siberian air, it's polar maritime. And at times there will be warm sectors still coming in, probably lifting the temperatures. But on the back sides of these areas of low pressure, we might pull in some quite coldish air from the northern part of the Atlantic Ocean. So it looks a more unsettled end to December, most definitely. And then we go through to weeks 3 and 4, which is the 30th of December to the 13th of January. And we find, again, we've got a trough in the Atlantic, but the ridge, I have to come over to this side of the chart, the ridge is extending and strengthening to the east of us. So if anything, I think gradually through that early part of January, we're going further back towards the ridge, probably back to drier and potentially colder conditions coming in off the continent. Precipitation anomalies for that weeks 3 and 4 period. Still a little bit wetter than average for the far north and northwest around Scotland and Northern Ireland, but for England and Wales, it's going back to drier than average conditions. Temperature anomalies are just coming out near normal, so no sign of anything desperately cold coming in there. But with a more continental flow in January, you would probably expect that to be fairly cool. So I reckon as go through to the early part of January, the model is probably hinting at drier and colder conditions returning from the southeast. Or perhaps I should say drier and cooler, because it's certainly not going for a big freeze type pattern, but drier, cooler, with frost and fog perhaps through the early part of January. That's for JMA. This is CFS V2. Again, these are 500 millibar heights broken down into weekly periods. The first week period takes us from the 16th today through to the 22nd of December. Again, the idea is that red is extrapolating to high pressure and blue is extrapolating to low pressure. So very similar to what the JMA is doing for this week, really. We've got this deep trough in the northern part of the Atlantic, we've got the ridge to the east of us, and the idea, remember, is that although we're starting off under the ridge, very gradually later next week, we find that ridge being broken down by the trough in the Atlantic. But then go through to the second week, which is the 23rd through 29th of December. And this is a bit different to what the JMA is doing. This week, we're placed with the JMA under low pressure, whereas the CFS actually wants to keep this high pressure to the east of us as the dominating factor. We have still got this trough in the Atlantic, but it's through Greenland and down into the central Atlantic, with the jet stream doing something rather like that. So we're still under anticyclonic conditions there mostly for the Christmas week. We might have some rain in the north and west, but overall that does look significantly drier than what the JMA is doing. Difficult to say with the temperatures. The flow could be easterly, in which case we might be dragging in colder air from the east of Europe. However, the model is probably going to be suggesting a mild week with the air coming up from the south. So very similar to what we've had through much of December, really. A lot of dry weather and temperatures on the borderline between either being fairly mildish or potentially quite cold and continental. Then go through to week 3, which is the 30th of December through to the 5th of January. And this one looks different as well. We build the ridge over the country, so we're pulling the high pressure from the east of us and centering it over the UK. So hints of retrogression there, which is where you take the high pressure from east to west, as opposed to the normal flow, which would be zonal, and that would normally go from west to east in that direction. So it's essentially placing this area of above average heights over the top of the UK. Cold air coming around the backside of that high pressure into eastern, southeastern parts of Europe again. Another big plunge of northerly winds for them. For the UK, I think basically it's essentially dry and probably quite cold under this area of high pressure. That's a very extensive ridge of above average heights. Would certainly give frost and fog, I would have thought, through that early part of January. And then we go through to week 2, which is the 6th through to the 12th of January, and that high pressure then, the above average heights, going further to the west, so it's starting to centre in the Atlantic and up towards Greenland and Iceland. Got this trough up to the north of Scandinavia, and to me it looks like it wants to try and turn the winds into the north, possibly even the northeast there. So I reckon as we go through to the early part of January, that might be when we get winter really starting to kick in. We might find the high pressure developing out to the northwest. If we do, if we have the high pressure somewhere around here, this trough that's over the North Scandinavia on this particular chart will plunge southwards, and the upshot would be that we turn the winds into the north and the northeast. And I've heard rumours that the long-range E70UF model, the 40-day update from the E70UF model, is hinting at this through the early part of January, or through the second week of January. We might find things turning significantly colder. That might be our first real blast of winter. It's a long way off, so don't be getting all that excited about it, but watch this space. Temperature anomalies for the coming week coming out significantly milder than average. Remember, it won't be that mild because we're under high pressure conditions, so be closer to average, but still a bit milder than normal. Week 2, which is the Christmas week, 23rd, 29th of December, that comes out milder than average as well. But with the ridge being just to the east of us, we could pull in some colder, lower level continental type air. Then we go through to week 3, where we build the high pressure over the top of the UK. Still looks milder than average for Scotland, colder than average for England and Wales. Notice many parts of Europe also going colder than average there for the start of January. And then we go through to week 4. And again, north-south split, so Scotland still comes out mild than average. England and Wales comes out cold than average. Again, notice most parts of Europe are coming out with colder than average temperature anomalies by about as much as a degree or more, which is a fairly significantly cold temperature anomaly for Central Europe, particularly for these latter charts, weeks 3 and 4. Normally the signals are a bit weaker then. And then finally precipitation, so the coming week looks drier than average. Week 2, also very interesting, this is Christmas week, and this is looking drier than average as well. This is when the JMA wants to give us a wetter, more Atlantic-driven week. So there is a discrepancy there between the two models for Christmas. We still don't seem to have Christmas entirely sorted out. Week 3, going into the start of 2017, that comes out significantly drier than average. And then week 4 rounds it all off with another fairly dry week coming up then as well. That's a strong signal for weeks 3 and 4 in terms of being colder and drier. So that's how it's looking. I think we have got this uncertainty for Christmas. Through the coming week, we've got high pressure to start off with, gradually trying to break that down with the Atlantic. Then the Christmas week, we've got the split between the JMA and the CFS. I tend to go more with the JMA, I think. I suspect we will have a more unsettled end to the year. Although how long that goes on for, I'm not sure. It might be that we just have 2 or 3 days of quite wet and windy weather around Christmas, and then by New Year we build the high pressure back in again, something like that. So quite a bit of uncertainty still left for Christmas week. And then early in January, I think we've got to be watching out for the chance of something colder coming down from the north or northeast. So that will be where all the updates are focusing on, I suspect, as we get beyond the Christmas period. We'll be looking to see whether we pull down some colder air from the north. Remember, long-range forecast is always highly experimental, so it's not to be relied upon. It's just a snapshot of what the charts are showing. We'll do it all again next Friday. Come back at 7 o'clock this evening, where we'll have the 22nd Christmas update. Tomorrow, it's a week ahead broadcast, and we'll also do the CFS 6 months look ahead just for fun. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.